My name's Chris.
And I'm Kristie.
This is the Washing Up Podcast.
Mesdames et messieurs, salut, je m'appelle Chris et je suis Kristie et voici le podcast de la Versailles.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, so we're at Versailles.
I believe so.
I mean, as a historian, no good comes from that.
But it could because it's French Patisserie Week.
It is French Patisserie Week. So, obviously, semi-final, and the semi-final was so big and so important, we gave it an extra 24 hours notice, and so did CBC Gem.
Yes, we're a day late. We're a buck short.
Well, to be fair, we're not a day late, they were late, and, we delayed as a result.
But you've just killed my Blink-182 reference. I was going to go, we're a day late, we're a buck short. We've been writing the report on losing and failing. Well, not tonight, because we've got 4 winners, and I don't care who went home, because they're all winners as far as I'm concerned, and this is where we're at, where everyone's happy, and it's fine, and no one leaves the tent, and we're not staring down the barrel of the last episode next week, because I need my happy place.
Kristie doesn't struggle with separation anxiety at all.
No, I'm completely fine, mesdames and messieurs.
The Queen of Accents, ladies and gentlemen.
Le merde.
The Queen of Accents. She's done it again.
Yes.
So it is French. It is French Patisserie Week. I mean, I wish they had someone with some form of French heritage in there to really drive this week.
To make it authentic at least.
I really wanted the technical this week to be Kyla. More than that's what I was after. I wanted the Kyla technical more than anything, just to fuck with everybody. And I didn't want them to tell them either. Mm. I wanted it to Kyla set the technical, and everyone's like, "Oh, Bruno set a difficult technical," and Kyla in the corner going,
it was me.
It was pain. Anyway, so obviously French Patisserie Week, a big week for Bruno, massive week for Bruno, huge week for Bruno.
It's his week. He's the one that should have been interviewed at the front. He goes, I really feel like it's my week.
Bruno starts off and goes, "This is my week. Send me home, you fuckers." Anyway, so French Patisserie Week, and we opened with one of my favourites.
The Tour de France?
We opened with the Tour de France.
Yes.
I love the good Tour de France.
I just think that the Tour de France would be so much better with, tandem bikes. Imagine the cobblestone antics.
No. I think you've missed this. We needed the thruple bike.
Oh, like the goodies?
The goodies.
Yes,
the goodies undefeated in the thruple Tour de France.
I like the Tour de Crazy France, right? Where any kind of bike goes. You can have unicycles. You can have those 4-way bikes. You know, the ones that are like a little car.
You can have a penny farthing.
God, where's the penny farthing? That could be its own bloody category.
Okay, so you've got the Tour de France.
Yeah.
You've got the Tour de Crazy France.
Yes.
And then you've got, for the Australian listeners out there of a certain vintage, the Tour de Deli France, which is one of the worst bakeries in history, pretending to be French.
I had the bread once, and I can still feel it on my face.
There was one I had to walk past in the Queen Victoria building in Miscellaneous City every time I left Town Hall Station, and it was terrible.
Did you ever walk past a little pharmacy at Town Hall Station that was like a hole in the wall?
I did.
Did you see a buxom lass there that you thought one day I might marry her? You don't remember.
No.
And it was possibly at the wrong time, because you might have still been at school at that point.
No, I was going through so it probably was the right time.
1998?
Yeah, probably.
Oh, there we go.
There we go.
That was me.
Oh, there you go. Miscellaneous City. Spotted you through a wall. Didn't know.
No, didn't know,
And that's a clean sentence, that I spotted you through a wall too. Anyway, we're moving on. We're going to draw a veil. We're going to draw a veil.
Half the shit I saw while working there.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So, speaking of my favourites, Vol-au-vent.
Voulez-vous coucher avec moi ce soir?
I knew you were going to do that.
Now, my darling husband does love a good vol-au-vent. Unfortunately, his wife is not a big fan. And it's not the pastry. Fucking love the pastry. It's the filling. So your preferred vol-au-vent filling is salmon.
Salmon mornay, basically.
Yeah. I can't stand the smell of that cooking.
Now, here's the interesting thing, right? I hate tuna with a fiery passion.
Yeah.
Cannot stand tuna at all.
I like tuna.
Salmon, I love salmon. Absolutely adore salmon.
I'm okay with sashimi salmon. I'm okay with like fresh cooked salmon, like particularly like with the crispy skin.
I'm interested by the fact that you can't stand it because basically it's a salmon mornay. So I make the cheese sauce.
The mornay, like even tuna mornay, not a fan. I just think beautiful seafood and you're ruining it with cheese.
To be fair, I'm using flaked tinned seafood. I am doing what they said not to do in the Monty Python and the Meaning of Life, where I'm using the tinned salmon.
But I even get annoyed when we go to seafood banquets, like you go get a seafood platter. And if they ask you if you want lobster mornay, I'm like, why are you ruining perfectly good lobster by whacking cheese on it?
I actually like a good lobster mornay. Anyway,
know
and
you
you know
do.
I don't like a lot of cheese. That's the funny part.
This is the hilarious thing.
Mornay, I'm okay. Anyway.
Back to vol au vent.
So vol au vent. See, you went that way. I would have gone ABBA. I would have gone vol au vent. Aha!
A nice little Alan Partridge reference
Knowing
there.
me, knowing you, aha! Anyway, before we get into the fact that they had to make 16 vol au vent, 2 different flavours, and they had 45 minutes to do. They had 2 hours 45 minutes to do. So I almost did what Bruno did, what Alan did when he was giving the time call. We need to talk about Kyla. I love when Kyla lives her best Pan Am life.
Oh my god, it is groovy, it is funky, it is...
She can turn the world on with her smile.
Can't she just? She's this...
She can take an average day and suddenly make it all seem worthwhile. Yeah, it's you, Kyla, and you should know it. No.
Now I've got the... Ooh, I feel just like Buddy Holly.
So you're doing that, and I'm about to burst out into the...
Mary Tyler
I'm about to
Moore.
burst out into the love is all around, no need to waste it. Yeah, you're gonna make it after all. And then she just throws a mixer in the air.
Just a bag of Robin Hood flour.
See, mine is dangerous. She's throwing a cuisine art mixer in the air. You, however, have her sprinkling the pavilion with flour.
Now, okay, so I was really jealous that my cousin got to go to church, like to kind of like the youth group.
That changed.
They had a fun youth group. I know, back in the day when I used to be jealous of someone going to church.
That changed.
But it was the fun stuff. And I thought it was the coolest that they got to have a flower bomb fight where they just chucked flower bombs at each other.
Did they talk about a groovy guy who used to have flower bomb fights all the time? Had a lot of wacky ideas like flower bomb fights.
You know, might have been a little bit of a baker. Oh no, wait, he was a carpenter.
And his name was Steve. Anyway, so...
We are so going to hell. No, but what I was going to say is that it was all well and good of her talking about it until like they got rained on and basically they got stuck in dough like throughout their body.
Where's your Messiah now? Anyway.
Yeah. This is the devil's flower.
So Vincent had a brilliant take on the semi-final, which was he was terrified of making it to the grand final and having to bake again, and terrified of not making it to the grand final.
Wide range of emotions there. It was really...
Look, no one has accused has said that Vincent doesn't have range.
No.
He has a lot of range.
And consistency. That's what we like about Vincent.
Now, Stephen continued as he set out in this series by they cut to Stephen, and the first thing you hear Stephen say is, "Stirry stir."
But later on, I just feel that Steve has gone, oh, he's saying it twice.
Oh, he did.
I'm going to say it thrice.
Oh, he also did it twice. He also stole a Stephenism, which we'll get to in a minute. But then I love that Amy at one point, they're joking around, Amy looks forward and just turns around and looks behind her and goes, "They need to move you back to the other side." Because, of course, he no longer had his bench buddy. You know, him and Amanda were the back and forth. And, like, now there's no Amanda. So now he's like, "Amy, you'll do." And you can see Amy going, "Oh, God, I've got to bake with this behind me." It's like the joke in the Simpsons on the monorail, where the guy's sitting next to Leonard Nimoy and he's like, the solar eclipse, the cosmic ballet goes on, and he looks around and goes, "Anyone want to switch seats?" Amy was very much that person.
Yeah, I feel like Amy was everyone that I was sat next to in a class. They're like, "Oh, fuck, here comes Kristie. It's going to be all talking and no work." As if that's going to be a bad thing. And now here I am on a podcast.
There you go.
And everyone else is like, "Kristie is still distracting us from work." Well, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I'm entertaining and shit just keeps pouring out of my mouth in a metaphorical, wordy way.
So Vincent decided to go with a hot and cold one. Yes and a no one.
Well, it was chill. Hot and chill.
Yeah.
I just think it was hot and cold, and it was yes and no.
Yeah. So we had
He had vol au vents and chill.
we had a crab salad.
Is that his pickup line? Is that how he...
Vol-au-vent and chill.
like,
Yeah, is that, Vincent, is that the way the way you picked up your partner?
Yes,
Was it vol-au-vent and chill?
is that how hubby just went, oh yeah.
Oh, yeah, vol-au-vent and chill. Anyway, so we had the crab salad one. Crab, as the Wiggles once famously sang, crab salad.
Yummy, yummy.
Moderately okay. And butter chicken, which...
Beautiful.
We're a bandit for a good butter chicken. We have driven over an hour to pick up a quality butter chicken.
Let's just say the dance class I do is an hour away from home because it's a very specific... Okay, it's burlesque dancing, right? Just doing it for shits and giggles and because I may as well get my tits out for like real reasons, not just because.
Yeah, just you want to have a motivation.
Solicited boobs out rather than unsolicited boobs
Tits
out.
Akimbo is your name. Anyway.
So, the beauty is that it's in a town about an hour away where the best Indian restaurant is. Now, unfortunately, our local area's best Indian restaurant decided to shut up shop just before COVID. And it was, it wasn't a victim of COVID. I just felt that it knew what was coming and buggered off. So my husband here, Chris, likes it when I go dancing because then I'll pick up some delicious, delicious Indian, including a good butter chicken.
Now, we did have, when I say the driving an hour, there was one night where dancing was not on.
No.
And you still drove the hour just to go and get the food.
Because lockdown had just lifted. So miscellaneous city's second lockdown had just lifted. And we were like, how do we celebrate? By driving an hour to get Indian food. Because it's a diet.
We are those people.
Yes.
So anyway, Amy.
Here's people, I'm off to see my family. I'm off to reconnect with my, long lost cousin who I haven't seen in years. My best friend lives on the other side of town. Well, that butter chicken's...
There's an amazing butter chicken that's not going to order itself.
Yeah.
So, Amy decided to use lard alongside the butter. And with as with many plot lines in this series, this went nowhere.
Although she had a bit of lean.
She had a bit of lean. But I don't necessarily think that was the lard per se. But it was a plot line that really went nowhere because they talked about the drama of using lard as well as butter. Because I like the way Amy had to clarify, I'm using butter as well. I mean, duh. But
it's French week.
Yeah, the speed at which she snapped back as if to go, I'm not stupid. Bruno's judging this.
This isn't English week. I'm not making a pie.
So
pork in the middle of.
Exactly. But they sort of mentioned that, and I was waiting for a bigger deal to be made out of the lard. And it was like, no. It's like with every other, like they mentioned gelatin, and the only thing that happened with the gelatin later on was that Vincent, and we'll get to it in a minute, just went, fuck it. But, like...
While you've been talking about lard, I've just realised something. I don't know the difference between... I mean, there might not be any difference apart from the word, but is there a difference between suet and lard? Like, is suet a specific... Like, is that like bacon? It's got to be prepared in a specific... it's still pork, but it's just going to be prepared, and it's not ham, it's bacon. Like, is it a specific cut? Is it a specific part of the fat? And now going to have... Oh, you're now Googling difference between lard and suet. And there's probably like some, fat connoisseur out there who is going, oh my gosh, how did these people get themselves on a foodie podcast not knowing the difference between lard and suet?
Okay, so the answer
is
that as opposed to the muscle fat, suet has a higher level of... oh, God, it's all big words. Basically, higher melting point and congealing point than regular fat.
Okay, so...
There's your difference.
It's got to be from a different part of the animal.
Yeah, it's from its long-lost cousin. Higher melting point. So Amy, anyway, in her filling was going with pineapple and avocado 2 ways. So she'll never buy a house because 2 lots of avocado...
Yeah, I think she's too young to even be a millennial. Like, it's just bleeding into generations.
Exactly. So she had this avocado cream, was a bit of a sweet one that she did. And then she had fish tacos.
Yum, what a beautiful idea. That whole, because, fish, for some reason, right, the bloody French have gone, well, we're going to stuff in this vol au vent. And they're not thinking, like their beautiful cheeses and all this other stuff they've got. They're like, bloody fish, bloody lobster, bloody prawns and whatever else.
And if there's one thing I know about the French,
they
did lead with bloody every time.
Oh, yeah, it was like, bloody this and bloody that. And
it's like Bruno's in the room.
Yeah, it is. It's like, what does the emperor want this week? Bloody fish and bloody vol au vents. I presume.
The emperor. We've really picked it. We've picked a moment in French history, haven't we?
Yeah.
We certainly have. Emperor Bonaparte. Anyway, moving on.
I don't see, like, Louis and stuff, like, I don't think that they were so obsessed with one particular type of, I think they were just out for all foods. Napoleon, on the other hand, banned it for a vol au vent. Specifically, a bloody fishy vol au vent.
Now, as a historian who studies Napoleon, I can't verify that fact.
But you're going to find out, aren't you?
But we're going to go into that now. Did Napoleon love a vol au vent? Anyway, moving. I like the concept that we're now sort of trying to introduce the idea that Napoleon Bonaparte banned it for a vol au vent. So anyway, Steve went with dinner and dessert. Mm-hmm. So first of all, we had shrimp, sun-dried tomato, and goat's cheese. Look, it's a prawn. It was too big to be a shrimp. It's a prawn.
No, but they just call them shrimp.
I know they call them shrimp.
Because they're weird.
Yes, but Kristie, we also call it a pavilion, not a tent.
I know.
Okay, so we correct mistakes.
That's true.
That's what we do.
That's our part in this Commonwealth. It's really to bring people along to know English properly.
Look, the bakers respect the fact that we fix these things.
Look, I presume in the scheme of things, you know, we were founded after Canada, but that just means we have a closer connection to the original motherland.
We had a lot more time to get it right too, in terms of, like, we could practice it. Like, they got bastardized by America very fast.
I know, and they had French colonies whacked into them.
What's with aluminum? Anyway, it's aluminium. Anyway, moving on. Also, a note from last week. I do need to have, at this point in time, while I'm remembering it, I do need to give you a note from last week. I did have it confirmed by Steve that we are still friends. He doesn't like carob.
Oh, beautiful.
So therefore, Steve and I can maintain our friendship.
Bonding over the hatred of carob.
Because he's not a big fan of carob. I said, because we talked about that and the idea of, I bet you love carob. And he turned around to me and went, no. Don't love carob at all. But of course, his second bake, his sweet bake, did not involve carob as well. It was the blueberry cheesecake idea.
Oh, which was a far better and far, more delicious call than carob. Not that I think carob would have entered his mind. In fact, I think it would have been the last thing he thought.
No, as we know, he's too good for carob. He's too good for carob.
Yeah. Good job.
Look, we like bakers who are too good for carob, and Steve is one of those bakers. Anyway, moving on. Now, Stephen went with blackberry lime pastry cream, and then a lobster salad.
Well, you got to...
Can I just say it was nice to see lobster being cooked? It looked really good. I didn't necessarily need it in the vol au vent. I just would have eaten the lobster.
Look, it's one of those things that you can tell when you know that you can, like, push a budget and you can go a bit bougie. Like, how many lobster tails were there? About 5 or 6?
Yeah. Or that Costco. I mean...
Was it Costco?
No, but Costco do stock lobster tail.
Really?
Yeah, do you not know that?
No,
I've bought lobster tail from Costco before.
Not for me.
Yes, I have.
Have you?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You totally did. It was so delicious. I remember everything and all the nice things you do for me, dearest.
That was much like Stephen's method of baking in this challenge. Acts of desperation. That's how he described it. Acts of desperation.
Yeah, but look, when it's a last resort, but it is what it is. And yes.
Now, we then got possibly my favourite moment of the entire series. I refer, of course, to Vincent and Steve having a conversation about the butter chicken. And Steve goes over to him and goes, well, extra portions? And Vincent goes, of course. I've done this deliberately for you.
Yes.
And he puts some in the bowl. Alan comes over and goes, ooh, what smells really good. And without breaking stride,
a practiced
Vincent
hand.
Throws the bowl out towards him and just goes, here, and hands Alan the bowl.
Yes.
And he goes, that's Steve. Steve looks at him and goes, hey. As Alan is eating Steve's portion of butter chicken.
I'm going to take it outside. Rumble in the pavilion. I believe that's a what's it called? The next one up from Rumble in the Jungle.
Yeah. Now, what I really enjoyed about this was, if you looked online on social media yesterday, Vincent and Steve watched this episode together, and I'd like to think that at that moment Steve was still harbouring a grudge.
And then Vincent brought out a reconciliation butter chicken.
Redemption butter chicken. In line with Steve's later bake. Yeah. There was so much potential. I hope it happened. Anyway, I do actually hope that Vincent made him butter chicken while they were there.
Look, I feel that butter chicken, apart from vegans and vegetarians, could bridge a lot of, peace talks in the world. Because, there's a certain area in the world that is run with strife, and there is one meat that they can both eat, and that's chicken.
Are we, of course, talking about America?
Yes. The red and blue divide.
Not another subcontinent. Anyway, so it was really interesting watching them assemble the vol au vent because obviously you cut the shapes out, then you stack them up.
Yeah.
And poor Vincent, his hand would not stop trembling. He's like, I am so nervous.
The adrenaline was there. He really did have both excitement and just petrification going on.
Yeah, he really embodied the dizzying highs, the agonising lows, and indeed with his butter chicken, the creamy middles. He was all things to all people in this episode, and that's why we love him. So Stephen had a couple of his bases crack as well, which was a bit concerning.
No one likes a cracked base.
No one likes a cracked butt. Anyway, now Stephen at this point,
Some people like butt cracks. I'm sure that's a thing.
I wrote down in my note that Stephen had raising issues. Now, Stephen, we don't mean it in that way. I just need to clarify that first of all. But Stephen's dough didn't really rise the way that you would expect and or hope.
Okay, I'm going to do so this is where my brain went, right? So we went into butt cracks, you're talking about Stephen getting a rise and that kind of thing. I don't think this method would work for Stephen because I don't think he'd be into Pamela Anderson. But we did just watch this horrible documentary about a certain douchebag brand from the early 2000s.
Yeah, we did.
Whereby the big reveal apparently was that Pamela Anderson took this guy back to her trailer and put a toothbrush in her butt crack and joked around it being a toothbrush holder. And then they had to put a disclaimer after it saying
Pamela Anderson refused to comment. Of course she did.
Yes. So I don't think that, we could have assisted
I love where your head
goes.
I love where your head goes. So Stephen, again, they didn't quite rise up there. Now, I also want to point out that
maybe they needed Lin-Manuel Miranda to come in.
Rise up. I also want to point out at this point in time that I'm not a massive fan of French Pastry Week.
Oh, yes.
Now,
unlike
this has
certain people in this household,
it has nothing to do with not liking French patisserie.
No.
It's nothing to do with any of that.
Eat that.
Banned it for a good... Again, vol au vent, my favourite. Right? You try writing notes on an episode. Especially when autocorrect's in effect. Like, my notes at the best of times are unintelligible. Mm-hmm. French Patisserie Week, my translation work, and I'm just translating English.
Yeah, but I think you should be okay at translating it because you get to read my text. And my texting is sometimes...
If you ever get a text message from Kristie, and I hope one day you do, gentle listener...
just tweet me. I'll tweet you back.
Yeah,
I'll show you my texting skills.
She'll tweet you. If you tweet at Kristie, Kristie will tweet you back, and you will need to decipher what she meant. She does drop letters. She does invent new words. Sometimes it makes the sentence better, by the way. Some of the words that end up in that thing are so much better than what you intended the first time. Also, your phone does autocorrect you to be more filthy than you actually intend on being.
Yeah, I guess I've said felching one too many times in its presence, and it just knows.
It just knows now.
Yeah.
Now I also
Google has obviously, the Android update has obviously just gone install,
Kristie 2.0.
What's called the blue, the blue version of.
She's working blue, folks. She's working blue.
Whatever the new iOS update is. Yeah.
So much like this first.
That's Apple, isn't it?
So much like this first challenge, and much like our coverage of this first challenge, Vincent too didn't get to finish properly. He didn't get to finish his garnish off. He had the little discs cut out, and the effort he went to of the little discs of goat's cheese to put on top of the butter.
It is so disappointing when you put in that much effort and you just can't quite finish.
Anyway, so the judging. Now,
you just have to.
Kyla turned around and went that this was a really good idea for the garnish, but I think what you should have done, maybe with the butter chicken, and Vincent just looked at her and went, I ran out of time. Oh, okay. Okay. You can just see Kyla go, touchy subject. Won't mention that one again. Yeah, the decoration on the first ones are lovely. What you should have done with the butter chicken was... no, did it. Ran out of time. It's okay. Sorry.
I now want a butter chicken vol au vent. I think I could do that.
Good.
Butter chicken.
We'll do that.
Anything
Done.
really.
Done. Good flavour combo on the sweet one that he did. The butter chicken layers were absolutely excellent. Like Bruno was like, we can see the clear definition of these layers.
Yeah.
Amy's. There's a great play on the taco concept.
Mm-hmm.
They said there was a little bit of leaning, however. The fish was good, but needed more avocado.
Yes.
Fortunately, her avocado cream had enough avocado. That was a positive.
Sandwich them together.
Exactly.
Perfect. Boom.
Exactly. Just stack them one on top of the other.
You want more avocado?
Sandwich vol au vent.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, Steve's shrimp was very well filled, but it was a little bit under. And that's what they said. There was a bit of a problem there with it being under. They did say that the goat cheese flavour as well was so strong that it hit the shrimp. Because again, prawns have they take on the flavour of what's around them. So the goat's cheese is very strong. Took on the flavour of the goat's cheese more than it did the prawn.
Yeah.
The dessert one, however, was absolutely excellent. They loved all the textures and they loved the concept of what he did. Now, Stephen, Kyla said it was a timeless presentation, but it was also compressed.
It was a compression in time.
And then
I think that's a new Amazon Prime series. Oh, wait.
And then as they said that the lobster was far too salty, because they said the problem was, obviously it was too fresh. No. That they added...
They just got grumpy lobsters.
Yeah, they added... Well, the thing was, when Bruno goes, did you add sea salt? If I'm Stephen, I'm being a smart ass and go, they live in the fucking ocean. What do you reckon?
I couldn't extract it.
Yeah, couldn't take it out. But they had... Obviously, he added sea salt, but he also added capers.
Well, I think, Costco had a
sale on capers?
No, a sale on grumpy lobsters. You could either get the happy, calm lobsters, but you got the extra salty ones.
That's right. They were very salty.
Yeah, you could get, twice as much for the price of a happy
and apparently
lobster.
they were detectives. They were detectives as well because they were in for a caper. Anyway, the sweet one was also very nice though. So again, there were a couple of issues here and there, but overall not too bad. Then we get to the technical. Now, again, I really wanted a Kyla technical just to fuck with them, but no, we got a Bruno technical.
Which is brilliant. And look, I know you're like, I want to fuck with them, give it to Kyla. I'm like, no, I want a Frenchman to put on the French patisserie. Because, if it was a, groovy, funky 60s week, Kyla should set the technical.
Set completely.
Yeah.
So, Baba Aram.
Now, it didn't contain any barbers. But it did...
No Babar the elephant.
No. And that's who I think it was named after. I think it was named after an elephant
Crown
king.
Prince Babar, yeah.
Crown Prince Babar, who came on a diplomatic mission to France, may have got too boozed up with the French, ambassador and a few others, and may have stepped in a cake by accident, might have spilled a lot of rum over it, and they're like, oh no, dessert is ruined. He's like, wait, it's in a bunch shape. It is a rum baba. Get it?
So what you're suggesting is a boozy Babar.
A boozy Babar, yeah. And you don't see that on the kids' channel where...
That's after dark.
Babar up late.
Babar up late. Boozy Babar. So, now, a couple of things with this. First of all, let's talk about the challenge and then we'll talk about our experience with rum babas. So, no mixers. All had to be mixed by hand. And I have but one question. How the hell did you get Cuisine to sign off on this?
I know.
It's like the week in Australian Bake Off where the major sponsor, the dairy company Devondale, signed off on Free From Week.
Including a dairy-free bake.
Yeah, a dairy-free bake when your major sponsor is a dairy company.
So next week is there going to be just a lot of additional Cuisinart,
How good are mixers?
How good are mixers?
So to give you an idea, when they did the dairy-free week in Australia, when it was sponsored by Devondale, the company, hashtag you ought to be congratulated. When it was sponsored by Devondale, the next week, the first challenge was one that had a lot of butter in it, and the judges just spent the entirety of the first challenge going, how good is butter? Isn't butter amazing? Don't you love the flavour of butter? Oh, there's no substitute for the flavour of butter. And I maintain that was a make good.
Yes.
They're like, you can do a dairy-free bake, but you better talk about how amazing butter is later.
And I don't think that was a big hard stretch for the judges. I mean, Maggie B, between her and Bruno, I think 3/4 of the world's butter
usage just goes through them.
Goes through them, yeah.
So I mean, I like the idea too that it had to all be mixed by hand. I love the idea now of a boozy Babar mixing a cake by hand. This is an episode of Babar I want to see.
But he's an elephant. There's no, he doesn't have an opposable thumb. How does he grip the whisk?
He's a crown prince.
Oh, with his trunk. Maybe he has a whisk adapter for his trunk. And just spit, like when you go on a swing and you twist up the swing, like Babar just twists up his trunk.
Family is incredibly eloquent. He's well educated as an elephant.
I know, but when he gets baking, he gets,
He gets boozy.
He gets boozy.
When Babar baking gets
he needs
boozy.
to blow off some steam. You've seen the shit he's had to deal with.
When boozy baking Babar needs to blow off some steam. This is getting longer by the minute.
He makes a rum Babar. A Bubba rum.
A Bubba rum. So, now, rum Bubbas, the smaller ones, were an Australian Bake-Off challenge.
Yeah.
And quite infamous as an Australian Bake-Off challenge because we actually had the soaking of the rum. The way you do it, obviously, with the smaller rum Bubbas, is that you make the cake, obviously, the little ones, and then you dunk them in the syrup.
Yeah.
And you boil them in the syrup, and you flip them. But you only flip them once. What you don't do is what one of the bakers did, where they're like, oh, we need to get the soaking right through, and started piercing it with a knife, which as a result just left the inside completely soggy.
Too soggy. It was a soggy Babar.
It all fell apart.
A soggy bottom is not as bad as
a soggy inside.
Yeah.
So, moving on. But in this one, it was really interesting, because in Australian Bake Off, the big problem they had was too boozy. Now, I was fascinated, and I'm not going to do this challenge in order at all. I'm just going to start with direct message to the bakers. You've seen other versions of this show.
Yeah.
We've talked about the importance of booze in a bake. It's the only time I've ever seen bakers go really light on the booze.
Here's my conspiracy theory. I think they're like look at Vincent, right? He was shaking in that vol au vent. He's like, I need a stiff drink or 6. And he's basically gone around to all the other bakers and gone, look, can we just go easy and then we'll have a few drinks after?
I just have a feeling that Steve went through the minibar. It was like, he goes, you're coming home with me? I have a feeling that he went through the minibar and he came in the morning and went, look, can I get some more booze? And I went, no, we're cutting you off from the minibar. You've had enough. And he's like, I'll show you. I've got I'm like a hipster. I've got a mason jar full of booze. This is great. I've got a rum mason jar. They were the hipsters of the kitchen set.
Oh, it sounds tragically hip.
Oh, well played. Well played.
Terrible Canadian reference.
So,
I mean, to an awesome band, but just.
So the cake itself is actually quite a light cake, and that's the thing. As I said, you would think it's going to be a dense cake with all the rum. It's not. The cake is light. The crumb on the outside absorbs the liquid.
The thing that surprised me though is that you didn't pour the syrup on while it was still in the bundt tin. Like I was thinking, like it was going to be like a real get it in there and soak the shit out of it and just.
Because as we said, with the mini
swimming pool of rum,
with the mini rum bubbers, you put them in the boiling pot of rum liquid, and you flip them, and that's how you finish the cook.
Yeah.
So, I was interested to watch this. I was actually really interested to watch this. I like the fact that Bruno also pointed out the chantilly cream had to be mixed by hand as well, just to be a real prick.
I wonder if in some places they flambe it. Because...
Maybe.
Imagine back in the 80s, you just...
in the 80s they flambéed it. They flambéed everything.
What's this? Why? It's your, I don't know, I'm trying to think of something.
Chicken schnitzel.
It's your chicken schnitzel, flambe it. What's this? Your cucumber salad, flambe it.
Yeah, you turn up to the table and they're like, well, what have we got here, sir? Oh, we've got a lovely sashimi dish. Oh, lovely. No, 1 second. Reaches over with a metal-handled pot. What are you doing? Just trust me, sir. Pours it all over the sashimi. What is that? Flambe!
It's a French-Japanese fusion. Now, we suggest you eat it with the red chopstick because it's made out of beetroot.
It's like that weird trend of the flambe souffle. It's weird. Yeah. It's like... Again, in the 70s, they would quite happily fondue everything. In the late 70s into the early 80s, it became flambe everything.
It's like, I think this was a divide, right? So flambe was high end, right? And low end was bread casing stuffed with curried egg and...
You say that, but my mother also does that salmon mixture inside bread casings.
Of course she does. You know what my favourite is? Mock duck. Mock duck's nice. It's not duck.
It's mock duck.
It's mock duck, and at the base of it,
Mock duck.
mock duck is because R is one of the most sinister.
I can't believe you didn't go there first. We're not going to say where it's from. If you got that reference, leave us a comment.
No, but the basis of this mock duck is that blue craft cheese that you buy from the shelf, not the, the one that's I use
know,
that
word. Cheer, yes, cheer cheese.
No, not cheer cheese, not cheer cheese. It's a craft cheese, but it's in a blue box, and you get it off the shelf, not out of the fridge.
I do know that one. Yeah, the weird one that's preserved.
Yes,
Preserved shelf cheese.
Super salty.
Well, that's why it's preserved. So, instructions.
Oh, yeah, that's right. We're at the technical.
Remember that's happening?
Yep.
Flip and work the dough.
It sounds like a Missy Elliott lyric.
Yes, work it, let me work it. Let me flip them with the dough and then reverse it. Now, I loved the level of confidence. And look, I'm not suggesting that I knew Stephen was in trouble from the outset of this technical. But Stephen's first comment was, that's keeping its shape. Why not? Let's just do that. Look, in an exact science like baking, sure, why not? Let's just do that.
Well, he was kind of, I think erring on the side of caution of it's holding its shape. Its shape is currently this.
It was the other interesting thing. Well, yeah, true. Everything's a shape, really. So you could have got away with it. Now, Stephen and Alan were then having a conversation around the next instruction, because the next instruction was make apricot jam glaze. And they both marvelled about the fact that it didn't just say jam.
Beep, beep. Oh, no, let's not reference that.
Let's not reference him. Anyway, now, everybody pulled the bake out of the proving drawer. And were then concerned that it hadn't really got a rise to it yet.
So, in the voiceover, Alan said that first proof, you weren't expecting a lot of puff. But in the second proof, we were, and we didn't get it. And I want to know why. What's the science? Where's my children, go around, sir? That dude with the egg in the glass bottle.
Julius Sumner Miller.
Sumner Miller.
Two things. First of all, the first proof did enough to then get the currants in there. And again, currants. Okay, sure, why not? But we're doing that, why not? But the second proof, you did have most of them rise. Stephen's didn't rise. His stayed fairly flat. Steve's got a little bit of rise. Amy's rose perfectly.
Okay.
So you did get some of them rose, but Stephen stayed very flat.
Yeah,
it was
I was just curious. I thought everyone's was flat, but I wasn't really. I was probably just, in my head, thinking about random shit.
Then they turned around and made...
coming back to apricot jam.
Then they turned around and made a sponge sugar ball.
That was fun.
I would just... Again, Anne, I think, spoke for the audience when she said, I just watched this.
Yeah. It's like... Okay, this is the thing that annoys me about YouTube. You know when you see those oddly satisfying videos, but they don't fucking go to the end. There's a start and there's a finish. You want it to be oddly satisfying? Go start to finish. Don't just stop in the middle of it. That's just... It's rude. That's like the orchestra, getting to the end of like bloody and then they just up and leave. Like, there's no cannons, there's no the 1812 Overture. That's what I'm thinking of.
I was trying desperately to identify that piece of music.
Look, my forte is accents, not pitch.
And it was interesting because you went 1812 Overture, but the bit the thing you were humming was not the 1812 Overture.
What was I humming? To you and your pitch.
That's the one. That's okay. So the 1812, so the 1812 Overture, a little bit different.
How's it go?
I'll play it for you.
Okay.
So.
Should we pause here till we bring up the music?
No. You can keep talking because I want to hear more of your 1812 Overture.
Look, I just feel that music's in the soul, and sometimes it just expresses itself differently. You will recognise it the second I hit the button. You will recognise the bit. I'm going to get to the end. I'm going to just cut to the end bit.
Right. See, right to the end. No. That wasn't what you were humming.
What was I humming? Which one was it?
I know where you were going with it.
Oh. Wasn't the can. I at least know that. Wasn't Chopin.
I'm trying to get to the
We're
bit
going
you
to have to
wanted.
Shazam my voice now. We're going to have to play this podcast
No.
on Shazam and find out.
That was absolutely pointless, me trying to look up the 1812 Overture. We'll move on. I was going to explain it to you, but I just figured I'd do it that way. Mm-hmm. All right, so...
Yes. Plus it's musical rights we don't have to pay.
It's Tchaikovsky. I mean, he's not actually coming after us for rights fees.
No.
There we
go, that's what I'm after.
That was what you were trying, I know.
Oh.
So, I was hoping to get to that bit on the YouTube clip, but I missed it completely. Anyway, now that I've brought the podcast to a screeching halt, let's move on. You needed to have a light colour on your sugar, but then you needed to be able to spin it and cool it down. And I loved Amy's look on her face when she put her pot into the cold water. Ooh. Stephen's, however, burnt. So Stephen had dark sugar. Anyway, Stephen had brown sugar, which, as Mick Jagger would have said to him, well, why do you taste so good? Anyway, moving on. Now, I felt they were victimising Stephen at this point because Alan goes, if the cake is not proofed properly, and they instantly cut to Stephen.
Yes, but Stephen ended up being second in the technical.
Yeah, well, that's what they said. There were a couple of things that if he'd fixed, he would have done a lot better.
Yeah.
So, now we make the rum syrup, and this is where everyone added like a teaspoon.
It's really disappointing. Sorry, I love the bakers, but this just made me sad.
It hurt my viewpoint of them completely. I view them differently.
Like, surely they tasted that syrup and like, this is more syrupy than rummy. And like, rummy's in the name. Like, Babar is just half of it. Yeah, rum is most of it. You've got the Babar there. The Babar is there.
One of them is a Prince Elephant.
Yes.
The booze is what makes him amazing.
Yeah.
All right? We've talked about this idea. Boozy Babar is required.
Yeah.
So...
I wonder if he gets surly. Like, when Babar goes to blow off some steam, just walks up to, like, the old elephant who's being annoying him.
Who do you think you are? You are.
Except he sends postcards like Homer Simpson's cheese wine.
Yes. But the don't quit. Yeah, $20. So anyway, moving on. The gelatin to the cream. Now, this was Vincent's finest moment in the episode. Because they go, you need to add gelatin to the cream. And they said this voiceover, and like Vincent looks at it, and you get the 5 minutes, and Vincent goes, to hell with that, it's not happening. Throws the gelatin to one side and just starts whisking the cream. And what I loved is everyone was like,
he went full Devo.
They're squirting it. They're squirting it delicately around, and he just pours it in the middle of the bunt and looks at it like, look.
Look, no one's going to see it until they lift off the ball. And
no one's going to see it until they get to judgment. And then they're going to judge him harshly. So Bruno then decides to play up all of this by going, this was my favourite dish in my childhood. This is my most favourite thing we would ever eat.
What would be yours?
No pressure.
If you were the judge serving up the favourite thing from your childhood, where are we at?
I don't know where we're at.
I'll have to think about it and come back to it.
Yeah, we'll have to have a think about it. I don't actually know what my favourite... Yeah, I don't know. I'll have a think about it. Probably one of the cakes from the Women's Weekly Cookbook, to be honest with you.
Oh my God, get out of my head. I was like, I'd be making them all do the witch cake from the Women's Weekly Cookbook.
I love the swimming pool cake. Anyway, we've talked about this before.
Yeah, we have.
But
Steve, not enough, apparently.
So, Steve...
There's a sponsorship deal there.
They said that he struggled with the yeasted cake. They said that the dough was very dense, it was gummy, and there wasn't enough rum. Now, Amy, they said the shape and colour was really good. They said that it had a really sort of nice look to it, and it did need more rum, however. Stevens was a bit flat. They did say dark sugar, but the glaze was quite nice. The crumb looked okay, but the proofing wasn't good.
Yeah.
They said it did have a good flavour, though, and it had the best rum.
It did.
I like the idea that Stephen was like, my bake hasn't worked, oh well, and just starts pouring booze.
It's how you're going to get your punchy elephant prince.
Exactly. Vincent, nice colour. They said the cream was lacking. It wasn't lacking, it was just pulled in the middle. I mean, pay attention. We all did. The cake was overworked, unfortunately, and they did say the glaze was nice, but again, lacking rum. Steve was fourth, Vincent third, Stephen second, Amy first. And Vincent turns around and goes to Bruno, you ate this when you were a kid? To which Bruno looks and goes, thank you very much for your concern.
There's a lot that we did in the past that wouldn't be done now. But then there's a lot of things that are still done in Europe that we wouldn't have done in the past.
No, exactly. So, the showstopper. The Petit Four.
Indeed. Now, when Kyla said Petit Four in her Canadian accent, I just heard Patty Four, and I'm like, well, there's a drag name for someone.
That has to be.
Yeah, you know.
Sheldon, I'm looking at you. Feel free to have a new character that comes out every now and then and make it that one.
Yeah, and she bakes, and she, like, spanks people with a spatula, and...
There's so much potential.
You know...
Think of the Robin Hood sponsorship deal.
You could spin... Like, I would do, like, a dance to spin me right around doing spun sugar, but on an actual human. Like a hot, muscled human. That don't even have to be muscled, just a hot human. Just,
there you go, that'll work.
Yeah.
Thank you for specifying a hot human. Really appreciate that.
Not too hot, we don't want the sugar to melt.
That's the problem.
They do also have to, consent to being put in a freezer afterwards to set.
Set? Yeah, like, you know... I'm okay. Not only am I okay with being the serving plate, I'm okay with being the chill rack. Anyway, so 3 different types of Petit Four, 36 in total. They had 4.5 hours for this challenge.
Now, was there something, I don't know if I missed it, but did they actually have categories of Petit Four that they had to put on there?
They did. They genuinely did. And if you think I can remember what the hell those categories were, you're kidding yourself.
A sec?
Yeah, there was sec.
Because it sounded like sex. And then I think there was one that, I want to say duck, but then I think, no, that must be the duck was that we were talking about. And possibly a juice, but... So,
the categories are glacé.
Glacé, that's it.
Sal.
And
sec. So, sal is salted, sec is dry, glacé is glazed.
Nice.
There we go. I was able to look it up and not embarrass myself. Moving on. Vincent. Who has been hyper-organised all series, had 9 pages of instructions.
I was so fucking impressed. And I'm so glad to see someone else who needs colour prompts in their instructions to themselves.
Yeah.
I need to live with colour. I now have a clock timer for work that's, like, visual. Like, I just don't understand people who can just read, like, black and white stuff. So boring. And then, like, I'm thinking, oh, modern era. Okay, so you think I can't sing the songs, right?
Yeah.
I can't read music, and I've fucking tried for years. And then recently I've got, oh, maybe they've released, you know, like, coloured musical scores so people like me who need a little bit of help could get it. No, still haven't fucking done it.
Well, there you go. Release it. It's your own marketing tool.
Yeah, but who's going to buy it? Am I, like, the only weird one?
No, I'm sure there's more people out there. But people do see colour in music.
Yeah, but it's not even colouring music. It's just
no, but in particular, colour in music is something that's a thing. So maybe you're onto something there.
That's patent pending.
Speaking of colour, Amy, we need to talk. Can you please do us a favour for everybody out there in the world who might be panicking and worried?
Yeah.
Stop killing Kermit.
and this time, I don't know if you went Barney or Grimace, but some puppet somewhere is missing an appendage.
Somebody copped it.
Yeah, the Henson Studios want their
Henson
creatures back.
The Henson Studio is not particularly happy with what you've been doing. Anyway,
the Madeline's like, I love you, you love. Look, it goes in the blender.
Ube was a very interesting call. So obviously she went with pandan cakes.
Yeah.
The Ube Madeleines. Now that again, Ube is purple. It's not that purple, so there had to be a little bit of support in
unless
there.
they're radioactive Ube.
Radioactive. Anyway, they will sue. Now
imagine that dragon.
The Sublay was really interesting for me because I picked up the reference. I don't know if you did, but she called it the rose quartz Sublay.
Yeah.
They are the crystals.
How did you miss that? God, how did I miss that?
How did you miss a Steven Universe reference?
Oh, I don't know.
I don't think she was deliberately making a Steven Universe reference, but I went there.
I just thought it was a jewellery box full of
Yeah, well, they are the crystal gems.
Yeah, they are.
Exactly. But that's when they mentioned rose quartz, and
there was pearl.
In my head, I immediately went Steven Universe. Mm-hmm. So in my head, I wanted her when she served it to go, and Steven! And Steven goes, what? I'm over here.
No, both Stevens go, which one? Yeah. We've already got it down to 2. We had to kill. Do you know how many Stevens we had to kill off?
Yeah.
Before we got in here?
There were 9 of us to start with.
Yeah, it was
we culled them.
We were originally going for there can be only one, but
We decided to settle on two.
yeah.
One of us decided to go by a longer version, one by a shorter. Now, at this point was when Steve actually stole part of Stephen's identity. When he turned around, he's like whisking the cake and he goes, whiskey, whiskey, whiskey. And it's catching.
And he said it thrice. He's like, I will do you one better than twice.
Once, not twice, but thrice. Now, I loved Steve's attitude when he was putting his bake in the oven and he goes, good luck, buddy, I'll see you in your cake. And I loved his whole idea. So Steve's whole idea was, I've screwed up a bunch of things in here. I'm going to make them better. And I like it when he got to the judging at one point and Bruno asked him about the caramel and he goes, I stuffed that one up for you, so you're getting it again.
I like to think that off camera he's eaten some of the cake. He goes, good luck, buddy, I'll see you when you poop. Just the transformation of that cake from... Like, he went and watched it when he fed the chicken, the egg, and he's like, good luck, buddy, I'll see you when your ingredients.
So, Steve was making the financier, obviously the brown butter one, and that's because Bruno talked about the fact that he couldn't taste the brown butter. So he made a better brown butter. Now, was his brown butter better? Was it better than Betty's?
I don't think...
Betty Butter bought some better butter. Was the better butter better? Betty says no. We say yes. Betty was foisted by her own butter. Anyway, moving on. Lemon raspberry brownies. He made the lemon raspberry brownies.
They were nude, though.
Which,
they were in a sheer fondant. He could have called it a sheer fondant and started a whole new revolution.
What I loved was...
These nude cakes.
What I loved...
You want a sheer one. Like, it's like a burlesque fondant, you know, it's coming out, just giving you, like, you can see the silhouette behind it, but it's just like this sheer, silky fondant, a bit of the art of the tease.
What I absolutely loved about this, by the way, was the fact that the fondant ran and became basically a jam in between the two layers.
Yeah.
I love that. He should have just said it was meant to be a jam and the glaze was actually inside all the whole time. The glaze were the friends we made along the way. Anyway, and of course... And look, people who have only just started listening to this, first of all, how are you making sense of this? But secondly, and far more importantly, you're going to think that we're about to make a mistake here, but we're not. Duck was.
Duck was indeed. Duck was on the plate.
We cannot refer to it as duck was. It's duck was.
Yep.
And by the way, when I'm trying to type at speed, it's easier to type duck was
than
duck was. Anyway, so Stephen... So Stephen made the Earl Grey Madeleines, the blueberry ginger macaron, and a vanilla cake with passion fruit curd and speculas. I love a good specula.
He gingered it up.
He did indeed. The layer of specula inside.
I love ginger.
You do indeed.
I married a ginger.
Moving
on. No, but I just want to say kudos to Stephen for making it pretty and petite. It was just gorgeous.
That was hilarious. The whole, you know, you said you can't do petite. What is this? It's my attempt at petite.
It was very, very.
It was very petite. The flowers were lovely. So Vincent was making a vanilla bean pound cake. He made the sablé. And he made the rigueur with the cassis cream inside. Which looked incredible. That cream looked very silky.
Now, the religios, they're supposed to look like nuns, aren't they? Or something like that?
Yes.
Or a priest. Or
they looked a little bit like the nuns, really.
I think they look more like Buddha. And I'd like to see these religios cakes to be more inclusive these days. Like, maybe one with a witch's hat. Maybe one that is like a Mormon, and it comes out with like a little white shirt on. I
mean, there's a whole other conversation. There's a whole other conversation to be had about Buddha and, you know, representations of Buddha, but we'll get into that one later. They'll save that for the theology pod.
Okay, fine.
But I get what you mean, and I actually feel I didn't go Buddha. I went snowman.
Do you want to build a snowman?
I think if you dipped it in white chocolate, you've got a snowman. That's what you've got there.
I hope that it comes up on the Christmas episodes.
We'll talk about the Christmas episode in a minute. So. Now, Steve's fondant, as we said, didn't stick more so much as run all over it and past it and through it. And it was like it was a ghost. Like, it was just evaporating completely.
It was hint of fondant.
And I love that Stephen came over to help him at the end there. I was like, what do you need help with? And he's like, I just put a raspberry on that, will you?
Yeah, and look, this is a whole thing, like, Stephen, you know, unfortunately, I think it was a very close run. You know, someone had to go home. And, you know, that beautiful spirit of Bake Off is there and it just made me so happy, and that's why I don't want it to end. never going to end. I'm going to go over there and just trap everyone in the pavilion and then we'll be fine. It'll be happy days for always. We'll have red cardinals and other birds tweeting around all year long. I know it's winter, but it'll be fine. We'll have... Why are you looking at me like that?
The views represented by Kristie do not represent the views of the entirety of the Washing Up podcast. Anyway, the judging. So, Amy, they said it looked absolutely beautiful. The lychee curd was outstanding. Bruno's like, I don't know how you managed to do a lychee curd balance, but you did it.
Yep.
The pandan was delicious, and the madeleines were really tasty and not overly sweet. However, they did need a little bit longer. My only concern about the madeleines was that using ube texturally, I was a bit worried about that. But she made them work, so kudos. Stephen, they said they looked dainty,
Yes.
which was amazing.
Yes.
The speculars and the curd works beautiful, but the sponge was a bit gummy. The macaron was also overstuffed. I mean, I don't know anyone who complained about an overstuffed macaron, really.
Well,
Who goes?
tonight you did.
Who goes? I've got too much. I've got too much food.
Kyla did. Kyla went, we don't want it oozing out the sides, and I understand that.
I have too much food in my food.
Yeah, but you don't have a cleavage. And when you have a cleavage, anything that looks like it's going to drip down and create some titty litter, particularly when you wear gorgeous dresses like Kyla does, is an issue.
So
You can't wear a bib.
So the solution to this is simple. And people who have been eating like double fault stuffed cookies for years can tell you the answer to this.
What?
You lick around the outside first and you take the extra cream away.
Yeah, because that's going to look good on camera. That's not going to get appropriated for...
That's why you have a licking tent. Have you never had a licking tent?
I've been to pagan gatherings. Let's dig up, stupid. Let's dig up.
A television licking tent, I'm telling you now. Wave of the future. Anyway.
I'm sure it's a website already.
We'll be by the end of this pod. So, they did say that the jam was an absolute highlight, but the buttercream that he had inside the macarons was a bit grainy. They did also say that the tea that he had was really nice. Steve.
You need a good cup of tea after you've been in the licking tent.
The financier for Steve was very well piped. The flavour balance was perfect. The duck ones with the caramel buttercream was perfect as well, so that was great. The brownie with the lemon cake fondant that was a syrup, as they said, it didn't really go the way they were hoping for.
It was glacé-less.
But as they said, the flavours themselves were excellent. And that was what... Kyla's comment was, it's not a glaze, but the flavour is really good. Yeah. And then Vincent, as they said, minimalist, but perfect. Now the cinnamon sablé needed more time, but was quite good. The cassis was filled perfectly.
Oh, and it looked so shiny and so delicious as well.
The colour he got on that cream was amazing. They said the cake was very well presented, and the kumquat and white chocolate balance is excellent. Speaking of phrases you don't hear every day.
Look, you don't hear enough about kumquat and white chocolate balances.
Exactly. Now, this sent them off to the judging, and obviously Amy was star baker, and that was probably the easiest call they made. The going home was tough.
And look, I think they also had to take the past 9 weeks into account as well.
Yeah.
Because it was just neck and neck.
It was really close. I sort of predicted that I thought, and before anyone wonders, I have no idea who did what. I still don't know who did what. I'm looking forward to watching like everyone else. I kind of felt that the 3 who made the final were going to be the ones who could make it, and I thought that Stephen and Amanda were going to be the 2 that had that potential to swing in and out, depending on what happened on the day.
Yeah.
And I think for Stephen, it was just that slight underbake on the bake sort of did him in at the end.
Yeah.
But it was very close.
Oh, absolutely. And look, from day one, I have adored watching all the bakers, and they're just so effing skilled and talented.
Now, that leads us to our grand final. Our grand final of Amy, Steve, and Vincent.
Yes, I am both. I think I have the excitement that was affecting
the
Vincent.
excitement, yes.
The excitement. I'm both petrified and excited. Excited by finally seeing the culmination of these efforts, but the petrification of being left bereft.
Now, the good news is we won't be left completely bereft.
We won't?
Because after the grand final, we have another Christmas special. And this time Colin is back to do more than sing outside.
Well,
they're letting him inside to bake.
I hope they let him sing too.
And all it took was a Robin Hood sponsorship. No. So, looking at the people who are going to be inside.
Linda's back.
Linda is going to be... Because what's going to be interesting for me...
Nana Gazelle is back in the pavilion.
So what's going to be fascinating for me with Linda being back is that Linda, of course, was used to Dan stealing her stuff.
Yeah.
But what we didn't have was we didn't have Alan and Anne stealing stuff.
No, I think she might help them form bad habits or good habits for hosts, but... You know, the little dish on the end with the little offerings to hosts. I think that might become a new prerequisite for the contracts. The hosts
completely. We've also got fresh from, of course, his stint running every TV show known to man. Sachin is back.
Yes!
Again, as we talked about, Sachin was obviously auditioning a season 2 for his own TV show.
Yes.
So Sachin's got that. We've obviously got Colin.
Yes.
And look,
I'm so excited.
We don't have favourites. Oh, fuck it. Of course we do. Jodie.
Well, I love everyone, but,
We love everyone,
but
we love everyone, but Jodie's amazing, and we are so thrilled to see her in there.
And I really hope this time she brings in more tributes to Metallica, because nothing says Christmas like Metallica.
Exactly. So if you know what they say it with Ulrich. Anyway,
hush, little baby. It's like Enter the Santa Man.
So what we're going to have as well, I really hope what we're going to have is a tribute to Lars Ulrich attacking.
Lights.
I hope we're going to have a tribute to Lars Ulrich attacking Metallica fans for downloading their music. That's what I want. Yeah. I want a baked representation of Lars Ulrich going, we don't want those fans. We don't need those fans. The Napster era. Anyway, that's all coming up. But before we get to there, we've got the grand final coming up.
We do.
And also... just a bit of a teaser going out there. We've done our episodes this year. You know, if you've listened to us, we don't do a lot of other bits, and we usually do a lot of other bits and pieces.
Yep.
Keep your ears peeled, because I'm just saying, expect to hear a little bit more from us.
Look, I suggested some additional madness to this time of year because, nothing says trying to squeeze in visiting everyone that you haven't seen in the past year. One, because you couldn't legally, and two, because...
They're in another country. But we're going to be squeezing in a lot of visits between now and Christmas, so just keep your ears open.
Like the Star Wars Christmas special.
Well, speaking of Christmas specials, the other thing, and I haven't actually...
With added disco.
And I haven't actually mooted this with you yet. So I'm going to moot it on the podcast, because I got an email this morning.
I really like over-promising and under-delivering. It's my favourite. What?
But I got an email this morning. This isn't going to be under-delivered, because I got an email this morning.
Who from?
I got an email this morning.
Was it a prince in Nigeria?
No.
Don't believe them. I had my heart broken and my bank account robbed.
It was from the Vergies Committee.
What?
Well, we've got a finished series.
That's true.
So at the conclusion of a series, we all know what happens. The Vergies Committee convenes. They are currently sitting around the campfire.
Hold on, aren't you the Vergies Committee?
Be that as it may. We are currently sitting around the campfire.
But you hate camps.
Yes, but I have to, of course, sit around and have
just
vision
a candle,
quest.
Isn't it?
I need a vision quest.
Okay, the vision quest.
The
candle.
one they call beer. Needs
true.
to come down and pass down the messages to me as to who has won the Vergies. Now, we will reveal next week the location of the Vergie Awards. And you know what? We'll work that out once the committee tells us where they're going to be held.
That's great. You're the committee?
Yeah, and I haven't decided yet. There's
Are
bids. There's host city bids.
That's true, but
Have you seen the mail that I've got in the spare room?
No.
They're all of the host city bids.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
All 5 of those envelopes in the spare room.
Well, 2 of them. The rest of them are like mail-in brochures.
Oh, okay.
But there's 2 bids.
Whew.
So next week I will reveal the process. At the end of the grand final, I will tell you where the Vergie Awards will be held.
Wow, this is great.
It's exciting. It's Baking's Night of Nights. Now, I have to also find out, of course, if we're allowed back in Canada. All the unpleasantness is past.
Although our borders have been paused, not closed, just paused for the moment while we work out our Greek alphabets.
Yeah, exactly. Now I know my alpha, beta... Anyway.
Omicron,
On that...
you sing with me?
On that bombshell, we will be back next week for the grand final of the Great Canadian Bake Off. Mm-hmm. And hopefully on time. Thank you, CBC Gem. Don't do that to us again. Please don't do that to us again. We have no other way to watch you. Anyway, until next time, I'm still Chris.
And I'm still Kristie.
And we will catch you all later.
Au revoir, beau biscuits au boire.